Hello everyone, Mr. MCA here, and this is a lap guide for the newish lap time challenge taking place at Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, and we're using any Group 3 car, but for this video, I'll be using the good old Honda NSX GT500. This lap time challenge is over on sport mode, so make sure you have menu book number 9 completed so you can access this online time trial challenge. And this is a 2-week event ending at the end of July 3rd, 2024. You can use any Group 3 car with BOP turned on. No, you cannot turn your car, and we're on the racing hard tires. And your goal is to get within the 3% time range of the world record time when the event ends, as that is when your lap time gets counted, and hopefully you'll get to 2 million credits. Alright, so we're in the Honda NSX GT500. It's a bit more understeery than other cars like the Lamborghini Huracan and the Audi R8 LMS Evo, but this car has good top speed, so we'll make use of that. And we're going to go ahead and bring us up towards the left side of the track because your first braking point is the 100 meter board that is on the left. You want to start to brake right as you're about to reach it. So you're going to use all of your braking power and make your way down to first gear. Turn in just after the 50 meter board, make your way down to first gear and slowly ease off of the brakes as you're turning in. So doing a bit of trail braking. And with this first turn, you want to try to get the car pointing towards the next section of the track as soon as you can, as you want to start to ease on the throttle as you exit the turn to get a good exit. If you do it just right, you can gain quite a bit of time. For example, in some runs, I was gaining up to 0.2 of a second just out of the first corner. For our Rouge Radion, you're turning in just after the curb on the left ends, and you want to skim the curb on the right. You want to try to straight line it through Radion, taking advantage of the curves as you're still within track limits, and rev the absolute heck out of this car, shifting at 159, 160 miles per hour, so around 256 kilometers per hour. Then bring yourself towards the left. You're braking just as you pass the 100 meter board that is on the left. Full braking power and make your way down to second gear. You're turning in just before the curb on the left ends. Ease off of the brakes as you're turning in, so doing a bit of trail braking, little bit of throttle control to try to maintain some speed. Bring yourself towards the left and turn in just before the curb on the left ends. And so I'm starting to turn in right around here, so again before the curb on the left ends, little bit of throttle control, just trying to get a good exit out of that corner. Then brake before the curb on the left starts. So full braking power. Here I go down to second gear. Some people might go down to first gear for a bit more turn in. But for me, going down to second gear was just fine. Hug the right side of the track and just slowly start to ease on the throttle. Be careful about getting on the throttle too early because you don't want to go too wide out of this turn. Bring yourself towards the right, and normally I wouldn't suggest this, but because the time is at time 0, we can use it. You'll be using the shadow as your cue to brake and then turn in. You can also go down to second gear for a bit more turn in. Just don't hit the bollards on the left, and you can be a bit aggressive getting back on the throttle. Bring yourself towards the right, and Puhan is a little tricky because it's really easy to go wide. So you're braking just after the 50 meter board, full braking power for a short moment, and you can make your way down to third gear. Turn in before the curb on the right ends. Slowly ease off of the brakes as you're turning in, and carefully get back on the throttle. You don't want to time it too early because you do risk touching the green turf, which will make you lose control. Then brake just before you go under the sign. Full braking power and make your way down to second gear. You can turn in before the light green turf on the left starts, and just hug this right corner using a little bit of throttle control. Just as the gravel on the right starts, turn in, a little bit more throttle control, and as you exit this corner you can be a little more aggressive getting back on the throttle, but bring yourself towards the left because you're going to brake pretty early for this corner. Brake before the curb on the left starts. You'll be turning in before the curb on the left ends. Go down to second gear if you haven't done so yet. Trying to get back on the throttle as early as you can. Now this corner is a little tricky. You turn in before the curb on the left ends, And you do need to do a little throttle control because this car will understeer off of the track. Avoid the baller on the right. And yeah, you do need to lift off the throttle a bit. It's really easy to touch the dark green turf on the left and just end up going off the track. Now for this upcoming corner, you can also do a little throttle control. So you're turning in once you reach the tire marks on the right. Little bit of throttle control. That way the car can turn in a bit more. And you can stay on 5th gear until you hit 160 miles per hour. Brake just before the 150 meter board. So you're gonna use all of your braking power going all the way down to 1st gear. And you can use the curves as you're still within the track limits. So you see me take advantage of it right here. A little bit of throttle control to try to get a bit more rotation, and then just to be a little more careful to make sure that I don't spin out. And there you go. So we'll go through this again, but this time I'm not going to stop the video. So we'll take it all the way from the beginning of this run, just to show you about how I go about the final corners before I'm starting the new lap. Going a bit wide to try to get a slightly better run to start the new lap, as you will be going a little bit faster. Look for the 100 meter board on the left. That's my first cue to start to brake. Going all the way down to 1st gear, get the car pointing towards the next section of the track and quickly get back on the throttle. You do need to be a little careful because this car will generate some wheel spin, so you don't want to get too careless about being aggressive on the throttle. Our Rouge Raidillon is flat out. You do want to make sure that you try to straighten it through Raidillon so you're not just going all over the track and end up losing time that way. Rev the absolute heck out of this car, so shifting at around 160 miles per hour or 256 kilometers per hour. Brake at the 100 meter board, going down to 2nd gear. Little bit of throttle control to try to maintain some speed. Little bit more throttle control, let the car rotate around this corner, get back on the throttle. Brake before the curb on the left starts, go down to 2nd gear. Some people might do 1st gear for more rotation. 2nd gear was fine for me. In this case, you can use the shadow on the left as your braking and turning point, as the timer or the time of day is at time 0. For Puan, looking for the 50 meter board, that's your braking point, turning before the curb on the right ends. Nice and careful getting back on the throttle. Really easy to be too aggressive on the throttle and end up going off track. Brake before you go under the sign. Go down to 2nd gear for a bit more rotation. Little bit of throttle control as you go through these corners. Just nice and careful. Don't need to be too careless. Brake before the curb on the left ends. Nice and careful getting back on the throttle. Little bit of throttle control. Avoid the baller on the right because hitting those ballers will disqualify your time. So you do want to be careful about that. And for this upcoming corner, not this one, but the next one, you do want to use those tire marks on the right as a turning point. Little bit of throttle control, just a little lift off our throttle so you can make it to the turn. Brake just before the 150 meter board. Go down to 1st gear. Take advantage of the curves. A little bit of throttle control. Nice and careful getting back on the throttle. And we'll go through this one last time because I know there's those people that like to use bumper cam. So this is for you that likes to use bumper cam. I got one for you. This is my replay. So I do have the kilometers per hour on the right of the gear number for those that like to use the metric unit. So again, moving over towards the left side of the track, using the 100 meter board as the first braking point, down to 1st gear. Try to get the car pointing towards the next section of the track and get back on the throttle. For our Rouge Raidillon, the NSX GT500 can take a flat out. So you just want to make sure that you get your turning just right, just after the curb on the left ends. Skim the curb on the right and try to straight line it through Raidillon. If you can straight line it through, you'll get a pretty good exit. Again, revving the heck out of this car. Shift at around 160 miles per hour. Use the 100 meter board on the left as your next braking point. Go down to 2nd gear. Just nice and careful getting off of the brakes. So doing a bit of trail braking. Little bit of throttle control to let the car turn in a bit more and to make sure that you don't get too much wheel spin when you're getting back on the throttle. brake before the curb on the left starts, go down to second gear, nice and careful getting back on the throttle. And in this case, you can use the shadows on the left as your braking and turning point, as the time of day is at time 0, so time's not moving. Now brake just after the 50-meter board, and you do want to try to carry as much speed as you can to here, but do be careful about getting back on the throttle too early, as it's really easy to go off track. Brake before you go under the sign, go down to second gear for a bit more rotation. Nice and careful with your throttle input, just letting the car rotate around these corners. Brake before the curb on the left starts, go down to second gear for a bit more rotation. And again, carefully get back on the throttle. A little bit of throttle control right here. Do not hit the bar on the right, as that will invalidate your lap time, so you do got to be careful about that. And you will need to do a little bit of throttle control as you go through this left corner that is coming up, as this car is a little understeery. It does have the speed though, which is nice. And then brake before the 150-meter board, right before the 150-meter board, down to first gear, a little bit of throttle control, and just be nice and careful getting back on the throttle. And with that, I was able to get a 217.5. I don't know how I got this time, because I still feel that I'm rusty, but you know what? I'm pretty happy with this time, so I'm going to take it. But that's all for this lap guide. This is Mr. MCA, and I'll see you in the next video.